Okay, so let me just quickly review what we've seen so far. So we have an interface or a UI that the user can see. This UI will link to a form, a Google form, which I think all of you have used before. Very straightforward. And then this form will send data back to a response sheet. And this sheet is not seen by the user. So this is kind of what we would think of as a database, a DB. And inside this database, the responses go one by one. And then this UI can be changed based on the information that's inside the database. So it can update or change the UI. So in this way, you have a kind of interactive system that the user doesn't really think of as a Google Sheet, because the user doesn't see it as a Google Sheet. They see it kind of as like a program. It looks like a program interface. So we have one more step left. Now in this example, we've begun simple and we've kept everything inside the same Google document. So you can see here I have my join groups as one tab, and then my choose group links is another tab. I have many other things in here, such as tracking students when they pay for their books, and tracking students' grades is another page or another document I use. I can also help students to contact each other. So there's many other things I can do inside one or two or three documents. In this one, I'm doing many things. You could keep it very simple and just have one Google document does the data collection and also has the links. Or you could separate them. We're going to learn how to separate them a little bit later. So far, we've learned how to do them all in one because we can use the name. So for example, join group, right? How do we do that? We go ahead and we grab the information from the database to change the UI. And how do we grab it? We go ahead and we say, what's the name of the tab, right? And over here, our user interface, this has a name too. So in our case, the user interface is choose group links. So it has a name, choose group links. Choose group links, right? We've got that over there. That's this tab name here. But the data is going into join group. So join group, join underline group. So let me get that name here. Join underline group. That's that tab's name. So if I want to grab some data and I want to grab the data from over here and I want to grab the C column and I want to grab maybe number 5 here, row, then what do? From over in the UI, I just need to write a line of code, and inside that code, I need to have this name with the exclamation point, right? Like this. Join group, that's this tab here, join group, and then I can say $C, $5, and I can grab that. Or I can do other things like grab a whole range. I could say join group, exclamation point, and then I could say $C from to, and then colon to C, which means what? The whole C column beginning from number 2, all of that. So when we want to get information, when we want to get data from another tab that's inside the same file, we just need to do this. The name of the tab, an exclamation point, and then the address. It's very straightforward. Now, what if we want to get information from a different document, like a whole nother document? Can we do that? Yes, we can do that, but that's more complicated because you need to go to a whole nother address, a whole nother document. Just to give you a little bit of heads up, it's related to the ID because every document in Google Docs has an ID. We'd use the ID. And then after the ID, you also need to tell what tab is it. So very helpful to understand this idea of IDs and tab names. Okay, so you give your tab names some meaningful name. You don't want to just name them 1, 2, ABC, XYZ. You want to give them a name that's meaningful. And as I've showed you on mine, I also include a default or a key. Sometimes I'll call it key, and this is where I put information I want to use over and over again. So that's very helpful. Okay, we have one last thing to cover, and that is the user interface. That is this piece that the user is seeing right here. Okay, so how are we going to show this? Well, we have a few different options. We could go ahead and make one Google Doc, and this one Google Doc is our user interface, and it has one tab in it. And we go ahead and we open this for other users to see, or we share it. We could do that. But we need to share it just to view, not to change, not to modify. You don't want to modify, otherwise they could change everything. So you want to turn off modify. You just have view. They just share it to view it, to see it. Even when the page is set to view only, users can still click. Yes, they can click. They can click on a button. They can do that. That's okay. But they can't change anything inside the page. They can't change any numbers. They can't change any formulas. So you could do that. But that means we can only have one tab, because if you have more than one tab, they're going to see all of your tabs. So they might see all your other information. So you need to think, is that okay or not okay? In my case, I'm doing a lot of different things with this document, so I don't want my users to see all of these. So what can we do? Well, we can do something that Google makes very easy, and that is we can create an HTML page. So we can actually make this UI an HTML page, a document in HTML that the user can independently view and see. Now, how can we do that? Well, what we can do is we can come over to our page that we want them to see, in this case, the links. So this is what I want the user to see. I don't want them to see anything else. I don't want them to see the join group. I don't want them to see the students tracking of their paying for their books. I don't want to see the contact information. I don't want them to see any of that. I want them to just see this page here, just this tab. So how can I do that? Well, what we can do is we can come over to the File menu, and Google has an option to share. And they have two options. One is the normal share with others. And as we just said, you can go ahead and choose people to share, and then you can go ahead and you can decide, can these people just view or can they edit? Now, obviously, we don't want everybody to edit. Usually what I do is I come down here and say everyone. So that's anyone I give a link to, and I give them viewer. So now I can send this link, I can copy it and send it to anyone, and they can come here and see. But the problem is they're going to see everything. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to copy the link. I'm giving it to everyone with a link, and they can view it. Okay, so what happens if I use that? I give it to somebody, they can paste that in, and they can go ahead and they can view everything. You see, they're going to see every tab. Every tab down here, they're going to see everything they're going to see. There's nothing hidden. Now, they won't be able to change it, but they will be able to see it, which I don't want them to do. Okay, let's come back and look at another way to do this. The same place, File, Share, Publish to Web. So when you publish to the web, you're going to get a much better option. Now here, what we do is we're going to choose the link. The link will give us a link that will open up a page, and that page will be what you want them to see. You can choose the entire document, which is the example I just showed. But rather, what we'd like to do is just choose one of the tabs. So what I'm going to do is choose the Choose Group Links tab. Why am I going to choose that one? Because that's this one here. This is Choose Group Links. That's what I want. Choose Group Links. I go to File, Share, Publish to Web. Okay, so what we have in the Publish to the Web section are two parts. First, we need to choose this drop-down menu here. And then the next part is down below this Published and Content setting. I think usually this will be turned off to start with. So this is seeing everything fresh. Now you can do embedded, which is a way to put your page inside another page. But for now, we're just going to focus on making a link, an HTTP or URL link. To do that, our first choice then is, what do we want to publish? So we can choose the entire document or one of the tabs. Now it's either or. You can either choose the entire document or you can choose one of the tabs. So in our case, we want to choose group links. For sure, that's what we want. However, it's possible that we have some other tabs we also want to publish. We don't want to do just that one. We want to do maybe a couple of them. So one way to do this is you could choose entire document here, but then down below, you would choose specific tabs. So you could just have a couple of the tabs, like choose group links. I think I also might use contact groups to help students contact each other is another thing I wrote, and whatever you want to do. Obviously, you don't want to include things that are tabs or data you do not want your users to see, because they would be able to see them then. Okay, so I think in my case, this example, we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to have choose group links. Now, if that's true, I don't need to publish the entire document. I could just publish the choose group links. And then down here, I could do entire document, and I don't think it'll make a difference. Even though here I choose entire document, because I already chose choose group links, it's only going to be choose group link. Or I could go ahead and choose group links again. I think my experience is not going to make any big difference. Then we do this click here, and we go ahead and we say publish and choose OK. We're going to get a link here. And then again, down here at the bottom, what this does is it turns things on and off. So this link here is going to work, but only if you're publishing. If you push this button here to stop publishing, then it's going to stop. Or I think if you come here and change some of these, again, it may change what the user actually sees. So this link here will stay constant. Now, if you come up and you change this menu, then this link may change. Okay, you can test and try different things, different approaches, but let's go ahead and see what happens. So I take this link, I copy it, and what do I want to do now? I want to make this the link that I put into this code here, so that the users will always go there to see the link to the form to choose their groups. Okay, let's go ahead and test it first before we use it inside the code. So I have a blank page here. I'm going to go ahead and paste in that link that Google gave me. And what do we see? We see the page, but we don't see any menus. We don't see any controls or changes we can make. And down here, we don't see all the tabs. We only see the one tab, choose group links. If I click anywhere, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Now, ignore everything over here on the right side. This is extra stuff for me that I've been testing with. But what the users would see would be on the left side. And you can see that they see the full, because group 1 is full. What about group 2? Well, they can't change anything. But look, you can still click on the links. So this is the powerful part. If I move my mouse, I can go ahead and I can click on join group 2. And if I go ahead and click on join group 2, I'm going to get to the form, and it's going to help me to go ahead and join group 2. And then I go ahead and submit the form. So this is the really cool part. You're allowing the user to see something that is super useful. They could even use this on their phones. So for example, if I removed all of this on the right side and I just kept it to be maybe like this much, this is all they would see. Now, of course, they could scroll up and down because I have more groups down here, and they can go ahead and go to wherever they want and choose the group they want. And then click that link, go to the form, and then that data would go into our sheet and allow us to track. Do we have 1, 2, or 3 people in a group? And if we have 3, then the group closes and you cannot click it anymore. So this here is very much like a web page. In fact, it is it's basically a web page. Now, let's go ahead and look at the disadvantage or the downside of this. Let me move this page over here. This is the page that's being published. So I can move this over just like this. It looks very cool, very usable. Okay, so we've got our interactive user interface UI here on the right side. On the left side is where the data comes in. So remember, I went ahead and put in some dummy information here. This is not real, right? I just did this to help us use up the groups. But let's go ahead and remove a couple of those. Now we only have one person who's joined group one. But if we come over to this page here, which is the HTML page that the user is going to see, well, nothing's changing here. And that's because it's a static HTML page. It's not going to change when the data changes. Now, in the future, we're going to look at another way to do this so it does change live, but that's much more complicated. This is very simple and straightforward, an easy way to do it, but this is the downside. This doesn't change. Now, the user would not be on this page for very long. Usually, a person would come here, they would click, and they would join a group, and they close the window, and that's all. And then another student would come in here, and a student would load this page fresh, and they would go ahead and see the information that's more up to date. However, as you can see, even though we have only one person joining group one, when we look over here, we still have empty seats 0. It's not updating very quickly. So the disadvantage we're talking about here is when a user sends a form in and this updates, the database we're using, that is the sheet that has the form data. So we add a new record. That information can then go back to the user interface and show that there's one less seat available. So we'll have a seat will be -1. However, this does take time because we're using this feature of Google, which is the publish to web, and that's making it into an HTML page. So the UI is becoming an HTML document, and that takes time to update. Now, how much time does it take to update? Well, I've timed it here, and it can take up to 5 minutes to update. Now, this isn't too bad of a problem if we're just having students choose groups, as in here. A student chooses it, another student another time chooses it, another time. But if you have many people doing the same thing at once, then obviously that is going to be a problem. Now, in my example, I just let people choose when they want to over a whole week or over 2 weeks, so that works out. But if we were doing something in class, we need something more immediate, and that'll be a different case study where we show immediate updates. However, in this case, this works fine for me. Occasionally, there might be 4 students choose a group. Maybe the last person clicked the link while it was still showing, even though the group was already full of 3 people. So 5 minutes, I timed it just now. 5 minutes is the maximum you seem to wait. Let's go ahead and make a change here. So I'm going to change my clock to be 0. And you can see over here, we have our refresh. I'm refreshing. And we have group 1 has 2 empty seats left. That's because we only have one person chose group 1. I'm going to add another person choosing group 1. So I'm going to go ahead and enter there. I'm going to start the timer. And then I'm going to come over to our user interface here and do a refresh. And when I refreshed it, we have empty seat is 1. So you see that? That was just 13 seconds. So that worked great. Now, what if I go ahead and I add another one here? So I go ahead and add 1, enter. Now we should be full. So I keep my timer going and I go ahead and refresh. And it's full. And that's 20 seconds. So that worked out pretty good. That is acceptable. So what's the possible downside? It's possible it can take more time. I would say maximum 5 minutes. And when does that usually happen? That usually happens when your setup is new, or you just set up, you just published, you just made the page published to the web. After you've published it for a few hours, maybe, after then, the time can go all the way down to maybe 20 seconds or less. Also, if there are many users and many users are refreshing the page, it seems like it updates faster. So that's something to keep in mind. If you find out that the first time you create your page, you publish it to the web, it's taking 5 minutes, don't be discouraged. Maybe wait a couple hours, come back and see if it might take just 20 seconds as in our test here. Let's come back and test it one more time. So let's clear our clock. We can see the group is full. Let's go ahead and remove this one, and now I'm going to begin the timer, and we're going to refresh our page here. So there should be 2 seats available now. And now we have empty seats 1, which is not correct. It should be empty seats 2. Here we are at 2 minutes and we still haven't gotten an update. If we come over to our group link page, you can see we should be showing 2 empty seats. This updates right away, but still our publish to web page has not updated yet. So let's keep on counting the clock. And there we go, almost exactly 5 minutes. So in that case, it took 5 minutes for the refresh to happen. We just had a refresh, so if I did it again, I suspect it might take time again. Or maybe because I just did it, it might refresh faster. It's very unpredictable for Google. I would say 5 minutes is the maximum, but it's not 5 minutes for every user. It's just going to be probably 5 minutes between total refreshes of the HTML. So if a user comes in here and changes something, then it might just be 2.5 minutes to get to that 5 minutes. If another user comes in here, it might just be 20 seconds or 10 seconds. So most users would not be pressing the update. They would not be submitting new information exactly at that 5-minute time. So usually, if you don't need the data to be refreshed right away, then this system works pretty good and it's reliable and it looks good too, because again, you get the page coming out looking like an app. The user interface looks very good and the users cannot access other parts of your document. Okay, let's look back at our how step, which is all the time we just now spent, is how to actually do this. And what we were looking at were the data creation, the user interface, the form integration and the logic, modifying data for validation, and a feedback loop. When we look at our pages here, we can see all those things that we've done. We've gone ahead and we've gotten data input through users filling out a form that comes in here. We've made it easy for us to give users a link so that they can create a form. And then once the data comes in from the form, we can modify it here and change the output of the data, including all the way to not allowing some links to be clicked or changing the text that's on the screen to show something different. So I think that really covers these steps of our how. And then we went ahead and we built this example of a signing up for group page. Now we haven't really used really complicated formulas yet. We're going to do that next. But we did use a little bit of logic on the if logic. We did use a little bit of data validation. In other words, we checked, are there 3 users or more? And if there is, then we change what's on the page. We did create a hyperlink and that hyperlink gave us a link to a form, and then the form would input information into our database, and then the database would be used to modify the user interface, the UI. So there we are, beginning the process and doing the build. Then we go ahead and launch. So in this case, how do we launch? Well, we give students the link, and that link would be to this page here, the publish page. And we go ahead and we can just select that link and put it into our class description or our class outline, and then students can go from there. So in my example here, this is my class outline. And this is a Google Doc for my negotiation class. And once students download this document, they can go ahead and scroll through all the requirements and schedule the class. But one of the things that they can look at the very beginning is what to do at the beginning of the class. And one of the things they need to do is join a group. So they go ahead and they can click this link, and it will open a page, and there you go. You can see the groups. You can see how many seats are left in the group, and you can click it. I want to go to group 1, and it takes me right over to the form. So that's how you launch it. That's pretty cool. Pretty easy to use once you get down those few steps. Okay, that's it for this case study, signing up for groups or getting students' information into your database to begin your class. In the next case study, we're going to show something a little bit more complicated and use a few more new functions.